the water line.
Nope.
Schedule a client event. Check in with your report card.
2 minutes.
Good job, guys.
No, good job to you. Thanks for putting that together so quickly.
Especially when we gave you basically nothing to go on.
Correct. Well, yeah, that's fine.
So how about if I do
Yeah.
the intro and then you take the first slide?
Yeah, let's see what the first slide is. So you're going to do this, and you're going to do the intro and this.
Okay.
I think you should do this too.
Okay.
I think you should do all the way through. No, I'm serious, because I'm going to do so much later.
Okay.
This is all you talk about this stuff all the time. So I'll start at Triangle of Trust. But I'll chime in on all this stuff if I need to, but how's that sound?
Yep. And when you hear a pause, just go ahead to the next slide.
Yeah, I got it. 2 more minutes. Do you want to fuck with it one more time?
1 more minute.
Now let's go through, let's make a couple of quick changes.
Okay, let's do an edit. All right.
Turn my phone off.
And Nikki, you have us however you want us.
Yep.
She
I
just,
see you now.
she just disappeared. One minute.
1 minute to curtain. You guys can see my mouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I got to remember that.
Just use your keyboard.
Oh, okay.
All right, Charlie Brown's coming. Here we go.
Good afternoon, Flowcademates. Today, we're going to be talking about blending art and numbers. And we are going to talk about the idea of relationship, that we are in a relationship business. We're going to talk about Ford. I think this is something that many of you already know about, but we would like to review that. We want to talk about relationship building and maintenance, really, which is the backbone of our business and how we keep our business moving along. And then we're going to talk about homework. So we are in the business of building relationships. That's what it's all about. And I think that's why so many of us enjoy the business that we're doing, because we are, for the most part, extroverted. For the most part, people, we like talking to people. We like meeting people. We like people to feel good about what's going on. And that really is the cornerstone of what we're going to talk about today, the idea of building and maintaining relationships. I love this saying, if you don't know how to ask the right questions, you discover nothing. And I think Rick says it all the time, the idea of being curious about what you're saying, deeping a little bit deeper when you're talking to people, all of that helps you to get to know somebody better. And when somebody feels that you care about them, they care about you, and it just keeps that relationship moving.
Oops. Sorry about that.
So we want to talk again about Ford. I think a lot of you know what Ford is about, and it's the method that we use, and it's really a conversation about a set of topics that really hit anybody and everybody. Hey, what's going on with your family? How's work going? Are you enjoying what you're doing? Are you thinking about any kind of a change? Recreation, what do you like to do? What are the things that really outside of work you really enjoy doing? Maybe camping, hiking, cooking, those types of things. And the one that we're not always able to get to, but when we start getting to know people well, talking about their dreams and, hey, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And really trying to get into what their dreams are in their life, their why. It's really getting into that can really help to join more strongly with individuals.
The other thing to think about too, Kevin, on these is the time of possession. You know, they talk about that in the Ninja Selling book. It's so easy for us because we can be kind of gregarious and we love to talk and all those things. Guess who I'm talking about? And that's every time I'm talking, then they're having to listen. And we want to reverse that and be conscious of, I want to be listening to them. I want them to be talking about themselves. And so I'm always in my mind thinking, okay, am I talking too much? Do I need to give them more time? And the best way to do that is to ask them more questions.
That's right. And the next question is embedded in their last answer. And I think so many of us, as we're listening to people, we're trying to think, oh, what can I ask next? So we're not even listening to what they're saying because we're all wrapped up in what we're going to say next. And if we just listen carefully to what it is that they're talking about, it's their last answer that's going to take us to the next question. So two things that we love to talk about is listening, which we just said is so important. And when you get to the end of them saying something, and it's something that you're interested in and would like to know more about, just use the statement, tell me more about that, because that really helps to even draw more out of them. And it also shows that we're interested in what they're saying. And I think that's one of the most important things that we can do is show interest in the people that we're speaking with.
So the other thing that that we've talked about in terms of creating relationships and connecting with other people is sometimes when you're in the middle of one of those Ford conversations, somebody might say something like, oh, you know what, I'd like you to meet this friend of mine, or you might even ask the question, hey, who should I be in conversation with? We talked about this on last week's class. And the triangle of trust is when you establish, somebody says to you, hey, I want you to meet a friend of mine. Like this actually literally happened to me today. I've got a friend who wants to refer me a very large transaction in Sonoma. It's a $10 million house listing. And he's a little bit worried that I'm not qualified and all that stuff. And so I'm like, hey, why don't we connect? Why don't we, the three of us, get together and have a lunch so that we can, actually establish some rapport. While I'm there, I'm going to be asking Ford questions. I'm going to be listening and so forth. But it's so much better to have that connection in the triangle of trust in a meal or a coffee, but it doesn't have to be that. So another way you can do it is somebody says to you, hey, I've got a friend who's thinking about selling their house. I gave them your number. You want to say, hey, that's super awesome. I really appreciate it. What would be even better is if you sent us an email, you introducing me to them so that we can start that collaboration rather than waiting for them to hopefully call me or they get in front of somebody else that convinces them they should go a different direction. So it's a way to give people direction on how to introduce you the best way to make sure that you actually get in front of them before you're forgotten about.
Yeah, a lot of times there's fear between the unknown. I don't know this person. And if somebody makes that introduction that they know and that you know, it just kind of completes that circle and it makes it so much easier. Hey, if you know this person and I know you, then maybe we're going to get along as well. So that is kind of the way that works. So how else can we be, and what do we do to remain top of mind? Because that's really the most important thing. And it's really important to be top of mind after the transaction is closed, because that is going to keep us in front of people. So we all know that the real estate business is all about relationship, and that's how it works. But what does it mean, and how do I really work to keep those relationships fresh, to keep those relationships relevant, and to stay in touch with people in such a way that calling out of the blue, although we suggest that you do that, we'll talk about that in a little while, that it's not necessarily out of the blue, because you're constantly either through emails or through cards or through phone calls, they kind of know what's going on with you. So it's not uncomfortable when we reach out to people.
Yeah, the other thing that's funny, at the beginning, Kevin talked about how a lot of us, not all of us, are extroverts and we're out there and we love to talk to people and all that. But the number one complaint from people is that we don't communicate with them enough. That's during a transaction. And then the other thing that happens all the time is that we sell them a house or we help them sell their house, and then we don't communicate with them again. And then we're upset when you find out that the house that you sold them is being listed by somebody else because that person happened to be top of mind. So it's really important to maintain those relationships beyond the sale so that you do have second, third, and fourth transactions with them, because they're not, no matter how great the transaction was, unless you're staying top of brain, they're not going to just automatically remember you. And you might find that super hard to believe because you're like, no, but they named their kid after me. I mean, they couldn't believe that I got that house accepted. And here they are, and it's listed with somebody else. How did that happen? When was the last time you communicated with them? Oh, well, I didn't. I mean, I didn't need to. They love me that much. There's no way. Well, there's a way.
And the other thing that happens is there are so many real estate agents, and every one person knows, 5 to 1,000 of them. And so it's that idea of somebody getting into their sphere, into their relationship and saying, hey, I'll sell your house. And then we disappear. And if we remain in their sphere while they're thinking about buying or selling, or we're the ones that they go to ask for, hey, I need help finding a handy person, or I need help with this or that. If you're always that go-to person, when it's time to sell, or a friend of theirs wants to sell or buy, they're going to come to us. So phone calls are really important. And I look at this as two different things. First of all, it's kind of constantly being in contact with somebody. And every time that we talk to somebody, we have something for them. And that's the idea of coming from contribution. We're not looking to take something, we're looking to give them something. And also, especially when we follow our alphabet of the week, which we'll talk about, or letter of the week, which we'll talk about in a little while, they kind of look forward to, oh, I'm going to get a call from Rick. I'm looking forward to that because I have some questions for him, or I want to find out about something. So I want to talk about the importance of phone calls that are being planned, but I mentioned just a little while ago this idea of phone calls that are out of the blue, that you haven't talked to somebody for 5 years. And that can also be a comfortable phone call. And all you need to do is call somebody up. And obviously you're calling them because you are thinking about them for some reason. You call them up and you say, hey, Michelle, it's Kevin Kerner. I know we haven't talked for a really long time, but you've been top of mind lately. And I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. And oftentimes when they pick up, this happens to me really often, they say, hey, I was just thinking about you too. And there's this certain energy that kind of goes between people that can allow that to happen. And the other thing that I always say, if I get voicemail, I just let them know I'm thinking about them. I hope they're doing well. No need to call me back. Just wanted to let you know that I'm thinking about you. And you've given them permission to say, you know what, I'm not putting anything at you. I just was checking in. And what often happens is they call you right back and say, hey, I was just thinking about you too. How you doing? So calling on a regular basis is great because you keep that contact going, but don't be afraid to call people that you haven't talked to in a while. And the other thing that we talked about last week was this idea of making 20 calls a week, or updating 20 contacts a week. And to reach out to somebody, that gives a great excuse to do it, and saying, hey, I'm just working on my database, just want to make sure that I have correct information from you. And then that can lead into a conversation as well.
So if you notice, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, but on the weekly navigator, it's divided into days of the week. And so we use these as a theme because one of the biggest challenges is like, well, who do I call? What do I call? What am I supposed to say? And so we've categorized those days of the week into certain things. So for example, Monday is the check-in day. So if you any active buyers that you have, any buyers that are in contract, any active listings, whether they're coming, that they're eminently coming on, or they're actively on the market, or even if they've been sold and they're still in contract, all these people every Monday, at the very least, are getting a check-in call from you to give them a purposeful update on what's the latest thing. So if it's for buyers, it might be looking at their portal and saying, hey, I noticed that we had 5 houses come on this week. You saved one of them, but we didn't connect. Did you want me to find anything out about that? Or gosh, I noticed the house that you're looking for still isn't there. Do we want to change the criteria? I just want to check in, see how you're doing. So that's a call that you could make to a buyer who's not finding the house they're looking for. At the same time, and I want to make sure I highlight this a little bit more now because it's going to become more and more relevant, is houses not selling right away. And, for most of us, we've had this luxury of you put a house in the market, it sells pretty much if you've priced it correctly. Well, that's starting to be less and less, not less and less, but that's going to be maybe less the case a little bit. And so having purposeful, meaningful update calls every Monday, letting them know what other houses came on the market that were relevant to theirs, what houses went into contract that were relevant to theirs, and what houses that sold, to start giving them the actual data, lining it up for ultimately what you're going to need to do probably is adjust the price. What a lot of agents do is the house doesn't sell right away. They don't know what to call and tell the person. They're worried the person's going to get mad at them. They don't call enough. And then at some point, a month, 2 months goes by, and they go, we should lower the price, with no real data that's been given to them over a period of time. When we do these update calls regularly and we give them the right data, by the time we're saying to them a month or two in, hey, it looks like we missed it on the price, they already know that. They're expecting that. And it's a lot easier to get that price adjustment. So
Yeah,
Monday, the other thing is that, again, people don't hear enough from their agents. This is a great thing to talk about in your listing appointments or in your buyer appointments. Hey, by the way, we're going to hear from us at least once a week. It doesn't mean you're not going to hear from us also other times, but at the very least, it's going to be once a week.
Yeah, I love telling especially my sellers, I'm going to call you every single Monday, whether I have information for you or not. And when you get on that track that they know that you're going to be calling them, it's like, okay, I wanted to talk to you about this or that, or I'll call and say, I have nothing to tell you. I have nothing to tell you since we talked a couple of days ago, but I told you that I was going to check in. So here we go. So I think even if you tell them, I may call you and have absolutely nothing to say to you, but just so that you know that we're still connected, I'm going to call you. And that does make a big difference for buyers, definitely, but definitely for sellers. They like knowing that you're going to check in once a week.
Yeah, and if they know that you're going to be calling, they may save up their question that wasn't urgent, but it was important. So over the weekend, they know you're going to be calling. It's like, oh, that's okay. I'll just ask Rick on Monday, or I'll ask Kevin on Monday. The other thing is that assuming those calls are going well, you want to tap into that reticulating activator, right? That thing that happens when when you buy a Volkswagen Bug, then you see all the Volkswagen Bugs. That's what it used to be anyway, 100 years ago. But it's that thing that when something that you're tuned into, you then see everybody doing it, right? You're pregnant, your family's pregnant, you see all the pregnant people. The same thing happens when you're buying and selling a house. And so when you're actively working with somebody who's buying and selling a house, they are also attracting and interacting with other people who are thinking about, or they're talking about it at parties. This is the best time to ask for who do you know, or who should I be in a conversation with, and just tell them, hey, now that you're doing this, one of the things that's going to happen is that you're going to come across other people that are thinking about buying or selling. It would be really great if you were connecting them with me. Would that be okay with you? And they almost always say yes. Now, this is in the middle of a great conversation. This is when they're like, yeah, you're the best. You're, not when you're in the middle of something, like if you're not selling their house, maybe not the greatest time to ask, right? But most of the time, things should be going fairly well, right? That's what we want on the Monday call, is getting to that point. Is there anything else that I can do for you right now? No, it's great. Awesome. Hey, as you are, and then that's where you roll into those calls. So VIP Tuesdays, the VIPs are the people that totally love you and that you love them, and they have the ability and capacity to send you repeat business. And these people are worth spending a little extra time on, both emotional time, emotional energy, taking them out to coffees and lunches, buying them gifts, and calling them once a month instead of once every 6 months. They're getting all the other things. They're getting invited to all the client events you're going to do and all that, but you might also have 2 or 3 special VIP events that are just for them. Maybe they're social hours, maybe they're taking them to a ball game or whatever it is. But these are the people that really can make a huge difference in your business, and you want to make sure that you're appreciating them. So that's on Tuesdays. By the way, the way we do that is we talked about this a little bit yesterday. We have the app Hit 'em Up, and then within that app, I've saved all 10, so 4 groups of 10 VIPs that I send them a text on Tuesday mornings, and I go, hey, when is a great time to connect today? And then they all reply, or they go, hey, today's not good, or whatever it is. But then I've got a much higher chance of making sure that I'm going to connect with them. So Wednesdays is lead follow-up. Now, this is another place where realtors tend to struggle. They do all this work, they spend money on advertising, you make all these calls, you get a lead from somebody, or you get a signed call, or you get an internet lead, or whatever it is, and then you don't follow up with it. You know, it doesn't have any follow-up. And so on your Wednesdays, you want to have a place where all of your leads are, your new leads and your old leads, and you want to be going through those regularly until they are exhausted. They are either buying or selling with you, or they are not using you at all. But that you regularly call these people. And I know that for some people, it's like, oh, I don't want to bother them. Listen, if you don't bother them and they just choose to not use you, you're not going to use you anyway. So you're less likely to get anywhere with them if you're not calling them at all. Or at least that's always been my thing, is like, well, I don't want to bother them. They're going to be nothing without you staying in touch with them. So, you know, that's what we do on Wednesdays. Kevin alluded to letter of the week. This does not have anything to do with writing a letter. We're going to talk about writing a letter in a minute. This is the how to make sure that all of your clients get 2 phone calls per year, even if it's just a message. And we do it by calling the letter of the week. So the week 1 of the year, you call all of your A's. Week 2, you call your B's, and so forth. Somewhere in the middle of the year, on the 27th week, you start over on the A's again. And there's plenty of reasons to call people. We're going to get into client events in just a second, but you always want to have, like Kevin said, you want to be coming from contribution. So it's, hey, I want to let you know about our next client event that's coming up. I wanted to let you know that the market's changing and I want to give you an update. You want to have something that you're giving them. You're not just calling them to ask for business. So there may be an opportunity for that, but you have to start with coming from contribution. And then on Friday, this is the business development day. And we're not going to go too deep into this today, but this is the place where you're going to be actually reaching out cold to people. So it's leaders of the community that you might find in the newspaper that you've been introduced to by somebody else, or that has a common friend, or maybe it's just calling attorneys or builders or accountants, and you're basically trying to find people that you can cultivate more VIP relationships with, because as Kevin mentioned yesterday, I think, and he's mentioned before, the database is kind of a living, breathing thing. It's not static. There's going to be people that drop off. There's going to be VIPs that you had that are no longer going to be your VIPs, and so forth. And so we have to constantly be backfilling it and what do they call it? Or the part where you scrape off the stuff that's no good and you keep putting in the good stuff. I forget what that's called. Does anybody? We'll skip to the next slide. You guys get my point. All right. So the next thing is a really great, successful way for us to stay in front of people from a come from contribution standpoint is this below the waterline letter. Now, I've been sending this out regularly for several years. It used to be called Letter of the Heart, and we changed it to Below the Waterline. But the idea of this letter is a couple things. One is it's got nothing to do with real estate. You never sneak in real estate. It's not about that. There are going to be other things where they know, and they're being reminded you're real estate. This is all about a personal platform for you to talk about things that are important to you, life experiences that you've had, things that you've learned, mistakes that you've made, or important events in your life. Like I said, share some pain, some struggle. And the other thing is, and this is where it gets a little bit challenging, it's hand addressed and stamped envelopes. And the reason is that it is almost impossible for any human being to receive a hand addressed and stamped envelope and not open it. It's virtually, think about it, have you ever done that? Have you ever received a hand addressed envelope and you go, yeah, I'm not opening that. You have to open it. And then once you open it, there's some good stuff inside. So here's my most recent one. I'm behind, by the way. These are supposed to go out once a month. I think it's been 2 months. Nicole every day asks me, how's your letter? How's your below the waterline letter? I said, thank you for asking, Nicole. Anyway, the point is that this is the letter. It just, in this case, I talk about actually below the waterline and what does that mean? It has, it does have my picture on there. It has my logo, but it doesn't say anything about me being in real estate.
And as we talk about this idea of art and numbers, The below the waterline is the art piece. It's the idea of I'm telling you something that has nothing to do with the market, has nothing to do with how much something is sold for. It's just all about a conversation with them. So that's considered the art piece. And people think either more generally in sort of that realm than numbers and numbers and letters and things like that. So this is more the art side of appealing to people. And then the next one, when we get into evidence of success, this is more when we get into the numbers piece. And this is talking about successes that you've had in sales at sending out like a just listed, just sold card, talking about what the market's doing. These types of things are full on, in your face real estate stuff. And so going between the two is really important.
Sorry about that. I got ahead in the slides. Just
That's
one
okay.
last thing on the below the waterline thing. That is the number one thing that gets, I get text messages every time I send it out. I get 10 or 15 text messages that are like, dude, I loved your letter this month. Thank you for sending those. They're so great, blah, blah. I mean, this is a really great way to stay in front of people. The other thing that's super, that people really, really love are personal handwritten notes. And Kevin, you're an expert at this.
I love writing notes. I don't know why, but I do. And it's something that I have become kind of habitual about. And there are a couple of ways that I do it. These are the basic ways. Thank you, thinking of you, happy birthday. My favorite thing is to get on Instagram or Facebook and see what people are dealing with, pain or pleasure. I've lost a pet or a child or a parent or some kind of a loss would be the pain piece. I'm celebrating a birthday. I just started a new job, whatever. Those are the things that I take and then immediately send a personal note to them. Hey, congratulations. I see that I just found out a really good friend of mine from my previous brokerage just started her own company. She's out on her own. So I sent her a note. Congratulations. So excited about you starting your own brokerage. I know you've been wanting to do that for a really long time. And that's how we stay top of mind as well. Thinking of you, I realized that this happened, and it's so easy to just write that note and put it in an envelope. So personal notes, as Rick said, if you get a note, it's got a stamp on it, it's handwritten, of course you're going to open it. And usually 99.9% of the time, it has nothing to do with real estate. It's just letting them know about that personal connection that you have with them and that you're acknowledging that.
So emails is another way to stay in touch with people. For me, we get so much spam and so much garbage that I feel like you could almost be, it could be a detractor if you're sending out emails that don't have real value. I know that there's other people that have different opinions about that and that are totally willing to send out the kind of the boilerplate email stuff. I don't think it's great. That doesn't mean I'm right. I like to send out well thought out emails and that they're valuable. If they have something people like, you know what, I'm really glad that I took the time to open up that email because I do send them other stuff that is gonna, like maybe it's a client invitation or maybe it's a video I want them to read. But if I keep inundating them with stuff, I'm worried that they'll miss the actual good stuff that I did spend some time on. So that's my thought about email. All right, client events.
Client events.
These are great for so many reasons. And the thing that, and Kevin, we were just talking about this beforehand, it's not about getting everybody to show up to all your client events. The client events themselves are, of course, they're great. And, we just had one a month ago or so, and it was great. We had about 50 people there out of the 400 people that were invited. You go, wow, that doesn't sound like it's much of a success. Well, all of those 400 people got invited. They got something from us saying, hey, you're important to us and we want to invite you to this thing. And then it also gave me a reason for a month or two beforehand to tell everybody, hey, we got our client event, save the date. And it's more of that come from contribution. And then after it was over, all the people that came I got to send them all a little note. Thanks for coming to the party. And that is a lot of top of brain for one client event. And we try and do, 3 or 4 of these per year, which means that there's always something going on that I can be thanking people for coming to, or inviting them to the next one. So we try and do, I try and do 4 a year, but you want to do at least 3. You want to cater to different groups. They do not have to be expensive. You can do stuff that, I would say ours generally around a couple $1,000, $1,500 to $2,000. We often partner up with our preferred lender, who pays for half, and he gets half the credit, and he shows up to the events, and it's great. But you could also partner up with other agents and split it that way. You could have multiple agents that you do it with. And so that's another way to do it. But definitely having stuff that caters to different people. So for us, we do a party in the park, which we just did. We did a shred event at the beginning of the year. We have a movie rental where we rent one whole movie theater towards the holiday season. So ours is going to be in November. We're actually picking our movie right now. I think it's going to be the new Black Panther movie. And then we do happy hours as well for VIPs. We also added in this year something at a pool hall. So we invited everybody to a pool hall. We had a cater there and so forth. Another idea is, if you don't want to put on something and have a whole big event, find out an event that's already happening, and then just invite whoever you want to come to that and buy the tickets for them. That's another way to do it, to keep the cost down and still have an event to talk about.
It's a great idea. So gifting program, I think, is something that's really important to be your list of the things that you do and to be consistent with. And for client gifting, it's things like, it's 1 year since we've closed, 2 years since we've closed, some recognition of that, so that there is a realization of you were the one that made that happen, keeps you top of mind. Holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, we talked about that when we were talking about the information that we need to get with a new client when we meet with them for the first time. What are your kids' names? What's your favorite restaurant? What are your anniversaries? When's your birthday? Because that information we can set as a reminder to send out a card or flowers or whatever. And then VIP gifts are also important and a little bit more personalized. I like to use, and I send also gifts to agents that I just closed with, because that relationship is just as important. I send gifts to my TC every couple of closings, just to let her know that I appreciate her and what we're doing. So there are a lot, it doesn't just have to be clients, it's those that you're working with as well. And I personally use this gifting program or site called loopandtie.com. And Loop and Tie, you say, hey, I want to send a gift of a value of $50. And they then have this whole catalog of things that they can choose from for that gift. And sometimes I'll do like a $400 or $500 gift. So you can go up to, I think, $750 in with this gift site, and they'll just give you a whole array of things that you can select within that price range. You're giving them a gift. They get to pick what it is that they want. So it's kind of a win-win for both. Rick, you were telling me about a site that you use. What is your site?
Yeah, so we use something called Client Giant. And what it does is these are for our VIPs, and we send out 4 times a year, they get a gift. Client Giant actually decides what it is. So I don't even know what it is. And so it isn't in the personalized category, but they do get something, and it's nice. I mean, it's funny. All of a sudden, I start getting text messages from people saying, "Hey, I really love the travel kit you just sent me," or "I really love the blanket that you just sent me." And I'm like, "Yeah, awesome. Didn't know I did that." So I don't say that, obviously, but so that's a good way to just, again, stay top of brain as well. Okay, so our highlight, we've got a couple more things we want to get through here, and we are kind of up against it on the time side. So we're going to go through this. This is almost all of this is review stuff. So Daily Navigator, how this applies, the highlight for this week is all of the things that we've been talking about. number of touches you want to be purposeful about deciding. I want to talk to 5 people today. I want to make sure I talk to 10 people, whatever that is. I want to have X amount of forward questions with people, and I want to write X amount of thank you cards or personal notes. The more you're doing this, the easier it is to do it. The more you do this, the more it is easy to have more meet with. So if I'm talking to people, I'm also scheduling, hey, we should get together for coffee or for lunch. If I get somebody on the phone, I'm making sure that while I'm on the phone, I'm going to ask them about their family. By the way, you don't have to ask about all of the forward questions, right? It's just being curious and helping with time of possession. And then after you get done talking to people and then having a good forward conversation or meeting them because you've had this phone call, then that gives you an opportunity. Hey, it was great to meet with you the other day. Just a few nights ago, we had 3-4 people over from our neighborhood that have been really great in referring me business. So we had them over for dinner. And then the next day I wrote them all thank you cards for coming over.
So for homework, if you're doing a few, an X number of these on a typical weekly basis or daily basis, try to push it up by 2 or 3 or 4. So in homework, try to push yourself a little bit more than you're currently doing.
So Weekly Navigator, many of you are using it now. It's awesome. I appreciate that. Just a reminder, here's your Monday check-ins. Here's your Tuesday VIPs. Here's your Wednesday leads and so forth. So they're categorized that way. The reason they're colored is that we asked you to kind of establish a baseline, and that's what Kevin was just talking about. So if when you first started, you were already regularly talking to 3 and you were a bluebird, then you might want to jump into the yellowbird area and start working on being, doing 6, or maybe you want to be a redbird or an orange bird. I didn't know we had a 4th category. I think I don't know how.
I think that's supposed to be a redbird.
Okay. Anyway, but that's why they're color coded, in case you didn't know that. And the Weekly Navigator, I'm telling you, if you're not using it, really the basis of the Daily Navigator is from a coaching program that I was in that had something like this that I was supposed to fill out every single day, and I just wouldn't do it. And so I used the Daily Navigator as part of a thing to make sure that I filled out my columns. That's kind of how this whole thing kind of got started, actually. Okay, now from a personal development standpoint, because we're wanting to have a personal development moment in each one of these classes, parts makes things different for each class, even though there's some similarities from one quarter to the next. The thing I want to talk about today was the facts versus the story that we are telling ourselves about those facts, and then tie that into real estate. So if you just from a personal standpoint, I'll give you something recently that happened to me. I was working on some stuff with my mom. I had a struggle with her around our communication. I call her every single Saturday, but for the last, and I've done that for 32 years, I've called her every Saturday and for the last 3 years, it's been really a struggle for some reason. And I was talking to this person that was kind of coaching me, and I said, she goes, well, what's going on with your mom? Well, she doesn't think I'm doing a very good job with raising my kids. Okay, what does she say? Does she say you don't raise your kids well? And I said, no. Okay, what does she say? She says, how are the kids? She goes, okay. So the fact is, she says, how are the kids? Now, when does she tell you that you're not doing a good job? Well, I just know that I know that when she says, how are the kids, she really means you're not doing a very good job. So the fact is, she says, how are the kids? And in my mind, the story I tell myself is, she's telling me I'm not doing a very good job. And so that's an oversimplified version of something that humans do all the time. We have facts that happen, and then we have a story that we tell ourselves about those facts. And just being aware of that and paying attention can give you a lot of relief when you start realizing, oh my gosh, how many stories do I have about the facts that I see? And if you pay attention to it purposefully, you'll see more and more. Now, where does this come into real estate? You're at an open house. You have this really great conversation, or at least what you feel like is a great conversation with somebody. And it's just a love fest. And they're like, wow, this is great. And you give them your card, right? And then you never hear from them again. Now, we're going to do an open house class next quarter, but this can be known as a counterfeit. Yes, I'm going to call you. The fact is that you did have a conversation The story is that in your mind, it was great and they're going to call me, right? So it's separating the facts from the fiction. And if you know that's the case, then it's like, well, wait a minute. If I know that I can tell, I have a tendency to tell myself these stories about how it's going to be great. And Nicole and I were at an open house a few weeks ago or a month ago, and we had this really great conversation with this couple. Neither one of us got their information, but we gave them ours. And they walked out the door, and I said to Nicole, we are never going to hear from those people again. And we never did, right? Even though it was great. I mean, I'm telling you, it was a love fest. We said all the things that they were listening to. Wow, you guys sound great. Yep, we are great. Thanks, bye, forever. So separate the fact from the fiction, and we'll tell you more about how to grab those phone numbers next time. All right, because we're running out of time. Homework, Kevin.
So homework, we want you to be thinking more when you are in a conversation with somebody and you want to not necessarily extend, but be a little bit more, I'll use Rick's word, curious about what's going on with them. Think about the Ford questions. And again, you don't have to use all 4 of them, but which one of those things do you have some kind of a connection with that is going to find out more about them? And I think if you are using it and you're really kind of thinking about how this can work for me, just kind of make some notes, and we'll talk about it more on Tuesday. Try setting aside either 30, 45, or 90 minutes every day just to call people that you haven't been in contact with. And again, I like to say, hey, you've been on my mind. I just wanted to give you a call and let you know that I'm thinking about you. And that opener can really be work wonders. 90% of the time, you're going to find out that they do want to hear from you. They do want to know what's going on with you. And they probably have been in the same position as you have to not call back or call you. So give that a try. And I think it's going to be really rewarding and really kind of a warm, fuzzy feeling when you do that. Again, if you get voicemail, be sure to say, no need to call me back. I just wanted to let you know that I was thinking about you. We'd also love you to start working on a below the waterline letter and what that would look like that you would send to your client. And again, it has nothing to do about real estate. It has everything to do about maybe things that you're dealing with, challenges, successes, wins, something that's going to allow me or allow you to open yourself up to me, the person who's receiving the letter, to really kind of make a little deeper relationship. Think about your schedule for a client event and maybe get that on the calendar. Here's what I'm going to do next month. So start scheduling out what your client events are going to be, and then put everything on your report card. And we'd love to take a look at that and see how things are progressing as we've come to the end of our first month in this session. So bring all this data to Lifetime Coach on Tuesday, and we'll kind of go through it. That will be the basis of our Tuesday get together.
Okay, so that is our class on art and numbers, mostly about creating and maintaining relationships in the database. If you're just watching the recorded version, we're going to end right now. We're going to open it up for questions for those people that are here with us live. All right. So thank you for all attending. I see there's a bunch of comments here. I didn't.
Yeah, Charlie, tell us about the AvaBot.
Yeah, so AvaBot's it's a service I've been using for a few years now. I use it for buyer. I don't usually use it for seller gifts. I use it for buyer gifts. And then what I like about it is you can email or text them a link, and then they click the link, and it texts, the bot texts them and asks them a series of questions to get what they like, and then sends them a gift based on their responses.
Wow.
And then it captures, sometimes it captures their birthday if they choose to put it in there, so it sends a reminder. And you can change the dollar amount that you want the gift to be, anywhere from like $20 to, I think you can really kind of go up. Yeah, it's a good way to also capture data that you might not have, sends a reminder for birthdays. and it all comes in a branded box. That's your brand. So mine has my logo and everything on it. It's pretty sweet.
Cool. I'm looking at the site right now. This looks really interesting. And you get $25 off your first box if you sign up today.
Oh, that's a great
Yeah,
tip. I love that.
You pay for the boxes. I mean, there's some upfront costs, and I believe that there's a subscription. They used to not do it, so subscription based. It used to be like per thing, and you just prepay for the boxes. But I think it's a subscription now. But the gifts that people get are pretty sweet. And so like if they lean on tech stuff, then you get like a little, maybe you get like a little Google Home Mini, or even like a wireless plug, or high-end coffee or chocolate or things like that. So they're pretty neat little gifts. Some people like them, and some people are like, I didn't like that at all. Don't do that again. So that was actually a fellow agent I worked with that told me I didn't like that.
Cool.
So
Oh,
Really?
interesting.
yeah.
Well, thanks for the suggestion.
Kathleen, you got the kids home.
Yeah.
Did you have any questions about the class or any thoughts?
No, I was able to capture everything.
Including the kid.
So yeah, they left the house with my mom now. So, and of course it's like they wait until I hop on a meeting and they're like, oh, can we do this? Can we do this? And I
Yeah.
can't really respond. So they're like, yeah, she said yes. Yeah, I mean, I like all the suggestions about, like, definitely like the client gifts. And I like the homework too. I think it'll be challenging, which is good. It'll be a good challenge. So yeah, lately I've been, for gifts, I just been trying to schedule dinners with my clients. And I just bring my husband along. And so it turns out really nice just to kind of have some more personal touch to it.
Yeah, that's good. Anybody doing client events? Have you done them already? Are you worried about having them?
It's on my 90-day
That's right.
check-in, and I am a little nervous about what to do and how to do it, but I'm feeling more at ease the more I'm involved with this group.
I think that one of the things that it took me several client events to get over is I would do all this stuff, send all invitations, all the things. I'd even have RSVPs, and then I'd be there and be like, I don't know if anybody's coming. I've done all. I hope nobody's going to come, and then they always show up. Like the right amount of people show up, but got to do the work.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm most nervous about. The actual event part, I'm not nervous about, but just like getting people to show up.
Well, the other thing that I get nervous about is I've got a whole bunch of people. None of them know each other, basically. So how do I get them all to get along and coagulate, and that also just kind of works itself out. I make sure that I'm constantly working the room, and I'm going around and I'm introducing people as much as I can, but people are self-sufficient too.
I have to tell you, you guys all know Kevin Merlander, my business partner, and we would do this Kevin's happy hour once a month. And so all of these, as you were saying, Rick, these people that don't know each other all came in, and these people a bunch of them kind of became friends and realized, hey, you could help me out with this, or I like hanging out with you, or whatever. And a lot of friendships were formed by doing that. So it's that like-mindedness of the people that we deal with that oftentimes creates relationships that we had something to do with because we brought these people together. But it's interesting how those things can kind of perpetuate.
Lauren, it seemed like you were about to say something a minute ago. Did you?
Oh, yeah. So we have an event planned in October. I've had them in the past. I'm not worried about it. Usually we get a fair amount of RSVPs. We've had them at restaurant and like food courts before.
Mhm.
So this next one, we're actually catering. It's like a picnic in the park. So I'll have a better idea. But it's kind of nice because at least in the past, everybody goes to do what they need to do, like maybe get their food or get their photographs taken, and then they come back, and they're fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're beyond our 2:15 time. So we should probably wrap it up unless anybody has anything specific.
Unless Frankie, because he's the only one that hasn't been given time. You all good, Frankie V?
I'm good. One of the things I like the reminder media thing. Keep on like a salesperson this thing, but it's cool. You send out a magazine to them like every 2 months with your brand and everything. I think
Yeah,
it's
you
cool.
talked about that before. Maybe you could send us a link for that too, because that did sound pretty cool. I think you sent it to Nicole, maybe.
Yeah, and then they have an option on there, like a digital thing. It has a bunch of things. Like they have lead capture stuff, like booklets. But another thing is they have local events, and it just emails all your clients all local events happening every week, which I thought that's pretty cool. It's like
That's
events
definitely
additional
come from
things.
contribution. Yeah, exactly.
I used to get that magazine as a client before I was in real estate, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I had
Was it good, Charlie?
I enjoyed it. It was a nice thing. It came out like quarterly. It was pretty cool.
I had a listing appointment, and then the seller was like, "Well, this agent has a magazine." What the hell? He has a magazine.
Yeah,
And then I'm
Yeah,
like,
it-
"Oh, I
it's-
saw him." Like, "Oh, that's what he's doing."
it's got. I mean, it's got a lot of like, weight to it. Like
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, people, thank you for coming, and we will see you on Tuesday with your homework. Now, if you, for some reason, don't do your homework, that doesn't mean don't show up. Just show up anyway, and because that's where some good collaboration happened yesterday. It was really good too. So it looks like Charlie's got to go.
I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna show up, not because I'm not doing my homework. I'm not gonna show up because I'm probably gonna be on a mountain.
Oh, that's
right. You're
Fuck
you're
you.
doing one of
Yeah.
your.
Yeah.
Half Dome.
So that's why I'm not.
wow.
Well, check out and see what your cell reception's like, because we would like to hear from you while you're up there.
Yeah,
I will do what I can.
log in from the cables. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Nikki, hold on.
We did it.